Welcome to Trailblazers and Titans with your host, Dr. Keith Haney. Trailblazers and Titans is your go-to podcast for insights, inspiration, and actionable advice from the world's most successful entrepreneurs and leaders. Each episode features in-depth interviews with industry pioneers, innovative thinkers, and business moguls who share their journeys, challenges, and strategies for success. Whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur, a seasoned leader, or someone looking to make a significant impact, this podcast provides the tools and motivation to blaze your trail and become a titan in your field. Tune in to learn, grow, and transform your vision into reality.
Welcome back to another episode of Trailblazers and Titans, where we speak with leaders, thinkers, and innovators who transform lives, communities, and sometimes the world itself. I am your host, Dr. Keith Haney, and today's podcast guest brings decades of expertise in healing, transformation, and whole person wellness. Joining us is Dr. Margaret Cochran, a seasoned, deeply respected transpersonal psychologist, licensed clinical social worker, life coach, hypnotherapist, educator, social media personality, and author. She brings more than 25 years of clinical experience, and her approach to mental health is nothing short of extraordinary. Dr. Cochran blends traditional ego psychology, transpersonal psychology, and energy psychology, creating an integrated method that supports the mind, body, and spirit. Her work has been featured nationally across BBC, ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox, CBS Radio, Healthline, Yahoo Life, Mercury News, and many others. She also contributed to the Huffington Post, appeared and regularly on NBC Sacramento's morning show, and has hosted her own programs, including Wisdom, Love, and Magic, and the Mental Health Moment. She is here today to talk about healing, human potential, and the tools to empower us to live fulfilled, purposeful lives. Dr. Cochran, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
So glad to have you on. Mental health is one thing that so many people are talking about today, so it's a timely conversation for us to have right now.
Indeed.
I'm going to ask you my favorite question to kind of get us warmed up. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Well, considering that question, I have to say it was not so much a piece of advice I received as a life experience I had. And it was about recognizing that whatever happens, something good will come of it if you allow yourself to see it. And sometimes when things happen to us that we're not expecting or we don't like all that much, we shut down and we get tunnel vision, and the miracles that are out there for us zoom right by and we can't use them. So understanding when something happens, look on that other side. Something great is coming. You just got to keep your eyes peeled.
That's a good point. There are so many times we do miss the miracles that are right in front of us. I love that perspective.
Yes, we do.
So you've worked intentionally, blending traditional psychology, transpersonal psychology, energy psychology. What inspired you to kind of put together such an integrated framework, and how does that whole person approach really change outcomes for your patients?
Well, the idea of putting those things together helps us understand that we are not disparate parts. We are a continuum of energy, a continuum of experience, a continuum of health and wellness, all those things. And if we understand that about ourselves, then we have the ability to control it and to use it to our advantage. If we see ourselves as more a victim of what's going on or what's happening around us, then we lose our agency, and it vitally impacts our state of mind and our state of physical health.
I love that. So kind of break down those terms for us. Let's start with energy psychology, because
Okay. One of my favorite things. um, Energy psychology is really understanding the neurobiology of your physical self. And that means that there are subtle energies, there are electrical signals that go through the body, and they make the brain react in a certain way or not react in a certain way. And there are ways that we can manipulate the body such that we can calm ourselves, or we can teach ourselves, or we can heal ourselves. So that's really what energy psychology is all about.
Yeah, I've heard about that a little bit when I look at Eastern practices where
Mhm.
tapping, I've also
Yeah,
seen people,
EFT,
yeah,
right?
EFT, yeah. I've seen
Mhm,
it
mhm.
with, the needle thing. It's my brain just, acupuncture. People will
That yes, absolutely. Let me give you and your listeners a little quick one that you can take home, a take-home experience,
all
right,
right,
from your
I like
shopping.
take-home experience.
Um, and, it's really easy to do. You can do it in public if you're feeling a little anxious or, things aren't great. You can just, like, put your hands under the table or something like that. And just take your hand, either hand's fine, and take your index finger of your other hand and just gently trace around your finger. And you inhale on the upward trace and you exhale on the downward trace. And you inhale on the upward trace and you exhale on the downward trace. And on you go through all 5 fingers. And you'll find after you do that 1 or 2 times, all of a sudden you kind of go, oh.
And why is that? I'm just love the science behind that.
Well, the science behind it is basically it's mindful breathing.
Okay.
And the tracing helps us, "Okay, we're gonna do this now, and now I'm gonna do that." And it gives us something to focus on other than because we get focused on the pain or the fear or the whatever it is, but now we're focused just on the fingers. We're keeping our consciousness right there, and we're doing our breathing, and all of a sudden, all the rest kind of falls away.
I know I've talked to several people, several guests recently who've talked a lot about the idea of mindfulness. And that's kind of a newer concept that I really haven't had people tap into, but it's becoming more and more popular in just our dialogue and our conversations.
Mhm.
Tell us a little bit more about how that impacts our overall psyche, our mental health.
Well, the thing is that people they basically fall into 2 camps. Life is either happening to them or life is happening for them.
Mm.
Now, if life is happening to you, it's not a very fun experience. You feel tired. You often feel betrayed. You feel overwhelmed. You feel like, I'll never find an answer to this. It's too much. I can't do it. If you feel like life is happening for you, you realize, okay, I'm having this experience. What will it teach me? What am I here to learn? What am I here to teach others? What is something purposeful about what's happening? It's not just an empty thing. There's meaning to it, even if I don't understand what the meaning is. And it's funny, I was an expert witness in a trial, and this frustrated defense attorney said to me, "Who died and left you God that you could say such a thing?" And I looked up at the judge, like, "Do you want me to answer? Why do you want me to do it?" And the judge thought this was very funny, so he leaned back in his chair, put his feet up on the desk, and said, "Sure, answer the question." So I said, "Well, to my knowledge, there's been no celestial demise. But had that occurred, I would not take the job because, as far as I know, it's a volunteer position. The hours are long, and there are a whole lot of complicated things to solve, which are above my pay grade. So sometimes things are above my pay grade. I don't always understand why people have to have the experiences they have, why they make the choices they make, how they get themselves into a situation. I mean, you can trace back the choices, but why they've gotten themselves into a situation where they need to learn how to be more mindful, more aware, more loving to themselves and the world. All I know is that it happens. And if you follow that learning trail that you've been given, incredible vistas open up. Your life will change in amazing, wonderful ways you can't even dream of when you started into the experience.
Wow.
If you fight it, then you end up back, life is happening to me, and your life gets smaller. Not so much fun.
And there's a sense of hopelessness if life is happening to you.
Absolutely.
So, there's no
Hopelessness and
agency there.
helplessness are awful.
Yeah. So let's talk about transpersonal psychology.
Okay. Transpersonal psychology buckle up, here it comes.
Okay, here we
Trans
go.
Transpersonal psychology, uh, are the things that impact a person that are outside the ego. In other words, it's not, how did your mother treat you, or did a dog pee on you or when you were 5 or something like that. It's what's your place in the universe? Why are you here? What are you doing? What meaning does it have? Or perhaps you've come to me because you've had an experience that's shaken your worldview. For example, someone may come and they'll often be kind of cagey about it because they're a little uncomfortable. And they'll say, well, I was awakened in the night and there was my uncle who's dead standing at the foot of the bed. And he gave me some important information. Am I crazy?
Right.
And that's actually a true story. Young woman went in for a routine physical for school, and her blood sugar came back 400, which is a fatal level. You can't live like that, right?
No.
So her physician said, "Okay, we got insulin started. We got to have you come in to see the diabetologist tomorrow. All this stuff." And the mom was really upset, and she went to bed. And in the middle of the night, she felt something pulling on her great toe, and she sat up in bed. And there was her Uncle Joe standing at the foot with his old yellow windbreaker on like he always used to wear. And he said, "It's okay. It's just a mistake. Everything will be fine." And she said to him, "But you're dead, Uncle Joe." And he said to her, "Yes, honey, I know. I love you." And then he just faded away. So she woke up her husband and said, "Oh my gosh, Uncle Joe is at the foot of the bed. He says it's a mistake. And what do I do?" And her husband said, "You have lost the plot. You need to go talk to somebody right away because there's something weird going on."
Right.
So I'm the weird lady doctor. So she was sent to me, and she said, "Do you think I'm crazy?" I said, "No, absolutely not." I said, "I think you were given an incredible message, and I think you need to listen. You've got nothing to lose by repeating the blood test." So they did, and it was a lab error. Daughter was fine. If they'd given her insulin based on those numbers, it would have killed her.
Mm. Wow.
So she was trying to figure out how do I fit this into my worldview? Dead people are supposed to be gone. They don't show up at the end of your bed. And her husband, it shook him up too. But it took them to a place, and this frequently happens. It takes you to a place of realizing life does go on. Love doesn't stop. Love is eternal. And often those folks who love us the very most, when we least expect them to, they show up at the foot of our bed and give us some important information.
Wow, that's interesting. So we talked about energy and transpersonal psychology. How do these two modalities work together, and why are they essential for true healing?
Well, if you recognize that you are not alone, the universe is made up of protons. Everything that exists everywhere has the same stuff in it. You, me, the plants, other animals, we have different coverings, but we're all stardust after all. And if we understand that, it gives us a sense of connection and love and beauty and purpose. And our next step, once we realize that we're part of something pretty important, and even though we may not understand it in the moment, we have a contribution to give. We need to take care of this car we're driving here, this our body, and that's where energy psychology comes in. If things happen, say you get cancer or multiple sclerosis or something like that, there are ways that you can help the brain interpret what's going on in a better way, make the body work as efficaciously as it's capable of. And we have lots of data that show that people who have a good attitude, people who have others who are sending positive energy to them or prayer their way, they get better faster and stay better longer than people who are afraid and they feel like they've lost their agency and they feel hopeless and helpless, as we talked about before.
We started out talking about how important it is, especially in this day and time, to deal with the mental health issues in our world.
Mhm.
You've been on so many major media outlets, BBC, NBC affiliates, you have your own programs. Why is it important for, especially people like yourself, mental health experts, to have a public voice today?
Okay. I think one of the great challenges that people face is understanding truth from fiction. And there are lots of influencers out there who are selling vitamins and who have failed businesses, but they steal other people's work and put it in their book and say, "Oh, you can just solve your problems with this." And of course, and of course, when people can't, then they feel doubly bad. Oh my God! Not only am I anxious, but I read this person's book that says I won't be anxious after I read the book, and I'm still anxious. So how broken am I? So it's having someone make sense out of nonsense, having people who know what they're talking about say, "These are the things that will help you, and I'm not selling seaweed pellets."
I just bought seaweed pellets to help my mental health. What's going on with that?
You can put it in your salad.
I guess true. It's very tasty in my salad. We are living in, I think, I was talking to someone else who's also dealing in the mental health area, and we were talking about the fact that unlike physical problems, mental health are not issues that insurance companies want to cover.
Oh, yeah. Tell
So
me about it.
so when you're dealing with mental health problems and there's not really the support because there's not a timeline, there's not a pill you can take. How do you help people that are dealing with mental health issues when it's such a nasty stigma in our society?
Mm. Well, the first thing is to recognize that that nasty stigma in our society. Just for a second, let's do a little historical look at things. It actually came from the Victorians.
Mm,
Victorians were wise enough to realize, hey, there's something to this genetics thing. You know, beans and plants, we learned how to change them, and so mental illnesses inherited, but we don't have any cures for anything. They had no medicines back then. They just locked people up if you were schizophrenic or bipolar or whatever. If you were depressed, you just had the vapors and went to bed, that's just all they had. Well, a little opium thrown in there, but, other than that,
yeah, a
there
little
was not
opium.
there
Yeah.
was not a lot that was helpful. So, what you didn't want anyone to know was there was mental illness in your family, or you couldn't get your kids married off because they realized, "Oh, this could be in the family." So they made up a story about how, and we make up stories about stuff, which we can get into if you wish. Um, they made up a story about, okay, it's a character flaw. That's what it is. It's a character flaw. You're just weak. And if you pull yourself up by your bootstraps, which, by the way, is physically impossible to do, everything will be fine. And as we have developed medicines, some of that stigma has fallen away because we realize, yeah, it is genetic. It is an heritable thing. And it's not a weakness in your character. And there are medicines that can help. But as you know, old news dies slowly. And there's still a lot of that idea out there about, well, you could fix it if you wanted to.
Right.
If you just try a little harder, pay a little more attention, eat those green pellet pills, then, we'd be fine.
Well, I'm sure kimchi will solve it.
Absolutely. Well, you say that. That's really significant.
Yeah.
Uh, those kinds of things, those vegetables that we have that are fermented, take good care of the gut, and the gut is your second brain.
Yes.
There's a very powerful connection between your brain and your gut. In fact, we have a lot of literature that shows people who, for example, have depression or schizophrenia, if they eat a Mediterranean diet and they exercise well and they have a lot of good gut microbiome in there from all that lovely kimchi and sauerkraut and whatever you're eating, they get better. They feel better, have more energy, and they can either take less medicine, sometimes no medicine.
Yeah. I was joking about the kimchi, but no, it is I hear it knows a lot of good things there. Um,
It's
I'm
not my cup of tea, I have to say, but there are other it's basically a natural prebiotic and probiotic, which you can take. And by the way, I would recommend to you and your listeners, if you're going to go that route, which is a good thing to do, as you age, your microbiome decays.
right.
And so you need to put more stuff in. It's like a car, you got to keep maintenance on the thing. So usually the best ones are the ones that are refrigerated and need to stay refrigerated versus the dry kind that you can just buy over the counter.
Yeah. We talked a little bit about this, but our world is increasingly stressful. We see emerging patterns around anxiety and burnout, and people just emotionally overwhelmed. What tools can you help people with that immediately help support the things that are kind of in our world that are causing people to have, record numbers of stress and anxiety that we have not seen probably in a long time?
Okay. So here's the situation. The human brain has not evolved in the last 10,000 years. You with me?
Yep.
So we got ancient technology, 21st century problems. What could go wrong? So let's talk about what does go wrong. There are certain institutions in this country, in the world, that make money off you being frightened. Because if you're scared, you're going to buy my pellets. You're going to vote for me. You're going to do what I tell you to do, right?
Right.
If you have time to think it through, you might question that and say, well, I don't know if that really makes sense. How does it benefit me to decide because someone has green eyes and I have blue eyes that they're bad and I should hurt them?
Right.
Okay. So the most ancient part of our brain is something called the amygdala. And it's two little almond-shaped things that are in the back of your head here. And it's one of the first parts of the brain to develop, and it is our protection center. It's our emotional center. It's a place from which our cortisol, our stress hormone, which is a good thing. We need it in certain amounts, and also adrenaline, the signal for adrenaline to be released. Okay, so when something comes along and we're uncertain about it, or it's new, or it's a surprise, then the amygdala react first. Potential danger. Something could be happening here. Send out the chemicals. And then the way the system is designed to work is a signal travels through the brain here up to the prefrontal cortex where the executive functioning happens. And we have a chance, we start looking around. Well, is it really dangerous? Is it really a bad thing? Oh, no, it's just a coat hanger in the shadows. That's all it is. It's not a monster. I'm fine. And then the amygdala stand down. That's how it's designed to work. However, in certain people with certain conditions, they have hair trigger amygdala, so it just fires very easily with little provocation. And also, if I am evil and I want to control you, then I'm going to keep scaring you, and eventually the pathway for the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala to interact doesn't work so well anymore. And you're thinking from back here. And when you think from your amygdala, you do not make good decisions. Let me repeat, you do not make good decisions. And so you are apt to believe some crazy story about, yeah, blue eyes are good, green eyes are bad, kill the green eyes. Or this problem that we're having is all their fault, whoever they are, which is often ambiguous. They're just out there and we just need to blow them up or do whatever.
Yeah.
So if you're living from your amygdala, then you're apt to say, yeah, I guess that's what we need to do. Just please, I want something authoritarian to make me safe because I feel unsafe. And when somebody comes along and says, I can solve all your problems, everything will be fine, just vote for me, buy my stuff, blah, blah, blah. And people, normally rational, good, sensitive, thoughtful people, will buy into it because they feel a sense of desperation.
Mm.
So the key is to keep that line of communication between your amygdala and your prefrontal cortex. Now, a simple trick for that one is the Mississippi system. Since I was a school teacher, I used to teach people how to spell Mississippi. Now I use it in a very different way. And so when something comes to you, let's say somebody says something snarky, and you hear it and it registers, and your amygdala start to fire. I'm angry, I'm defensive, whatever. Instead, you say nothing. And in your head, you count 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. And then you say to the person, could you repeat that? Now, often at this stage, they'll back down because they know you see them for what they've just done. But if they don't, If they say it again, snark, 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 then you say nothing. Count 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. And then you say, did you mean that to sound hurtful and hateful? And watch how the conversation begins to change. Because now you're in charge of it. But the Mississippis are what gives your prefrontal cortex time to catch up with your amygdala. Because this ancient technology hits first. And this needs to have time to catch up. So the Mississippis give you the opportunity to do that.
Oh, interesting. Wow, that's really powerful. So as you think about the landscape of where mental health is today, what do you see the future of things going? Because I think it seems like it's getting worse, but just maybe my perception, because maybe I'm looking for the people out there who are misleading people. But what do you see in terms of where things are headed?
I think that what really matters in terms of our physical or our mental health is people's ability to stand up to their legislators and say, you have to put controls on what is out there. For example, right now, for the most part, insurance companies practice medicine with impunity. They say, you can have this. No, you don't need that surgery. No, 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 no. It doesn't matter what the treating physician says. And they've gotten around it by saying, well, we're not practicing medicine. We're just telling you we won't pay for it. If you want to have it done, go ahead. $50,000, $100,000, no problem. Yeah, well, it'd be a problem for me. I can tell you that right now. So being able to be really clear to the legislature, and here's the tricky part, is insurance companies have big lobbies. They put a lot of money into people's pockets. So many of us are going to have to stand up and say, no, no more. I don't want to be denied a proven service that will help my health or save my child, for heaven's sake. I've always practiced in physical medicine, and first in pediatrics and then in family medicine later on. And one time I was on the phone with this charming woman from an insurance company. And this little boy, little boys sometimes do things with their penis that are quite interesting. And he managed to take a pea and stick it in his penis. So it's stuck in there. And,
Oh,
yeah,
that
that's
was
very
painful.
painful. And he couldn't pee. And there's this purulent discharge coming. It was bad. So the physician was in there dealing with it. And I was tasked with talking to the insurance company to get an immediate authorization because he needed to see a pediatric urologist like now, right? And so the lady on the phone says, who maybe has a high school diploma, just let me say that. The lady on the phone says, well, can't you use more conservative measures? I said, I beg your pardon? What would you consider a conservative measure? And she said, and I quote, oh, I don't know. You're the doctor. You'll figure out something. So I said, ma'am, there is a green purulent discharge coming out of this poor little boy's penis. He's in incredible pain and he can't pee. And there was silence. I said, do you know what a green purulent discharge means? Silence. And she said, well, no. I said, it smells like death and poop had a baby. That's what it is. And she said, oh, that does sound bad. I said, yeah, it's bad. So she finally authorized it, but I must have spent 15, 20 minutes on the phone with her. Someone who didn't know beans from apple butter about what was going on, telling me that I was supposed to use more conservative measures for this poor little kid. So we have to stand up and say, no more. We have to have a new system of mental health and physical health so that people can stay well and feel good. But here's the downside. You're going to get a lot of opposition from various corporations and bodies and others. Because if you're not scared anymore and you're healthy and you're well educated, I can't manipulate you so easily.
And they can't make money off you either.
You're not my puppet anymore.
Right.
You're going to be making your own decisions. So yeah, we're not going to play that game. So the future of that is in our own hands. Will we stand up? Will we say, no, This is not okay. And if you don't fix this, I don't vote for you again.
Makes sense. So you've dedicated much of your life to finding healing. What continues to inspire you?
There's a moment. If you've ever witnessed a birth, and I've witnessed many, there's a moment where that little person pinks up and becomes a person. They're not just a jelly blob that's coming out. It's like, oh, there they are. That little soul's in there now. I see it.
Yeah.
Hi. You know, there's a moment when I work with people where I see that light go on and they say, oh, I see. It's this, and I can do that, and I can get out of whatever situation I'm in. We often spend so much time building the jails that contain us, the psychological jails. And we spend a lot of time focusing on the tensile strength of the bars and how big and powerful the lock is. And we forget that we have the keys jangling in our pocket. And when I see somebody realize, oh, the keys are in my pocket, of course, I can get out of this. That's the moment I live for.
I love it. So what's one common mental health myth you wish would disappear?
Ugh. There's so many. Um, I think mainly the character flaw thing, closely followed by people who don't understand how medicine works, and so they make up stories about it. Oh, if you take this, then that will happen. Or, you'll become addicted to your antidepressants. Or your child, if they have ADHD and takes medicine to increase their dopamine levels, they'll become a crazed addict and start doing fentanyl and meth and it's all nonsense. It's not true. But there's so much gossip out there. And because of the internet in particular, so much repetition of the gossip. Sometimes it makes it difficult to help people because they've been so frightened. They're thinking back here with the amygdala. They've been so frightened with the gossip that they will eschew or delay treatment that could improve their lives tremendously.
Speaking of that, for yourself personally, what is one wellness practice you never skip?
Oh, two things, actually. Being out in nature and reading. And often I'll do both at the same time.
I love that. What's your favorite way to recharge?
Wash, rinse, repeat. Really the same thing is being out.
Yeah.
And also, I think one of the most important things for all of us is something that I call vitamin G, and that's gratitude. And a daily gratitude practice is something all of us can do easily, takes just a few seconds, and in about 28 days, it'll rewire your brain in a very positive way. And all you have to do is I usually do it in the shower in the morning and right before I go to sleep. Now, the reason the go to sleep time is important because that's when you're moving down into a hypnagogic state and you're much more open. You're back in theta waves. You're much more open to new learning and calm. And in the morning, as you're just coming up out of theta waves into alpha, it's the same situation in reverse. So basically, you just run through a list of things you're grateful for. And in the beginning, it can be tough sometimes. Like, I don't know. I don't have anything to be grateful for. My life sucks like a bucket of ticks and blah, 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 blah. And so I'll say, well, pick something. I'm so happy and grateful I have purple dinosaur socks. Whatever it is, right? And you'll find if you keep doing that the list will get longer. Because as you repeat it, you'll think, oh, and I'm grateful for that too. Oh, and I'm grateful for that too. And what you begin to find is things that used to bother you just don't bother you so much anymore. Your amygdala doesn't fire at things that it used to fire at. Your prefrontal cortex is much more in control of what's going on. And when people come to you and say, oh, the sky's on fire and this and that, and you say, oh, okay, well, what do you think we need to do to put the fire out? Rather than, oh my God, So that vitamin
Right.
G is another important daily practice that I certainly do and benefits everyone.
I love to ask my guests this question. What do you want your legacy to be?
Oh. um, I had one of my kid clients ask me that question. And you're old when somebody asks you that, right? What do you want your legacy to be? Um, my legacy is not about me. It's my knowing that everyone I touch in a loving and healing way touches someone else, who touches someone else, who touches someone else, who touches someone else. And pretty soon people that I don't know and I've never seen and aren't even born yet are touched by that loving, healing energy. And that's it.
That's good. So we have something new on the podcast, and that's a surprise question. Pick a number
Okay.
between 1 and 10 for your surprise question.
I get to pick a number? Ah,
Yep.
7.
If you could send a message to the whole world, what would you say in 30 seconds?
Practice compassion.
That's good. You got another 27 seconds.
Well, I think that, the notion of compassion, there are some people out there now who are labeling it evil. They're saying it's wrong.
Mm.
But I will tell you, empathy changes people, empathy changes cultures, societies. Empathy can change the world. If we taught empathy in school, we could change the world in a generation. Why? Because those kids who do those empathy exercises come home and teach their parents. And their parents teach their parents. Oh, what's this kid learning in school? What's going on? What's this empathy thing? And all of a sudden, people are thinking differently and solving problems differently and accepting things in ways they couldn't before because there is no us and them. There's only us.
Well, compassion used to be a weakness. Now it's just evil. So I guess it's
Yeah.
changing.
Well, it is vital. And the first person we have to have compassion and empathy for is ourselves. And often we don't. We end up with this inner critic in our head who's saying, you didn't do this fast enough, or you didn't make enough money, or you're not tall enough, you're not thin enough, you're not whatever it is. And when we're thinking about ourselves that way, we're basically creating entropy. You probably remember from biology that if there's a system and more is going out of the system than coming into the system begins to decay and die. And so when we lose our compassion and our empathy, all the energy's going out and nothing's coming in. And so pretty soon we're worn out and tired and angry. And again, we're starting to make decisions with our amygdala, which don't take us anywhere good.
Where can people find you and connect with you on social media?
Well, I am known as the relationship doctor. And you can find me, I have a podcast, and you can find me on Instagram and various places like that. And my website is drcochran.com.
Well, Dr. Cochran, thank you for sharing your wisdom, your compassion, and your extraordinary insight for us today. Your work continues to broaden the conversation about healing, inner growth, and the power of integrated wellness. For our listeners, if you want to learn more about Dr. Cochran, her programs, her books, her media appearances, you'll find the links to the show notes. I highly encourage you to explore her work. It might just shift the way you think about mental and emotional well-being. If today's podcast episode has moved you, please subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who could use a little inspiration and healing today. Until next time, keep blazing trails, keep leading with purpose, keep striving toward the best version of yourself. Thanks again, Dr. Cochran.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Trailblazers and Titans. If you enjoyed our conversation and found value in the insights shared, please subscribe to our podcast and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us reach more listeners and continue bringing you the stories of the world's most inspiring leaders. Don't forget to follow us on social media for updates and exclusive content. Join our community of trailblazers and titans, and let's continue to learn, grow, and transform our visions into reality together. Until next time, keep blazing your trail and striving for greatness.